Nobody gonna love me better. I must stick with you forever. You know
Ooh.
how to appreciate me. I must stick with you, my baby. Nobody
Give me some
ever
Usher. Give me
made
some Usher.
Nobody don't want you, 'cause you know, gotta let it go, 'cause the party ain't jumping like it used to. I don't know these words, let it burn. What's up, y'all, and welcome into today's episode of Forte Catholic. I'm so excited that you guys are here and that you have found us today. Jon Blevins is my co-host today. I have a question for him about one of the most popular Catholic saints and a very popular Catholic story about that Catholic saint. I said the word Catholic a lot. Welcome to Forte Catholic. It's just a story that I've always had questions about, and I finally am ready to voice them. We also talk about the 4 P's that are very important to us. Somebody asked if it was pee pee poo poo, and it is not. I can promise you that those are not the 4 P's. It's a very good conversation about business and leadership and faith. So why would you be so derogatory like that, person that said that? And then finally, we talk about a 5th P, which is parish and parish life and the life of a layperson at a parish and what happens when things at the parish start going well. We've talked so often about things not going well at parishes, but dealing with a parish that is going well and your role in that. So we talk about that today. We hope that you enjoy it. If you do, please hit subscribe wherever you're watching or listening. Enjoy. What's up? Welcome to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Stroll. That is Jonathan Bearded. Lene Blevins, less bearded than the last time I saw him, and less hair since the last time I saw him. It's coming out quick, buddy. How are you?
Yeah, it is. I'm good. My barber keeps telling me it's not time yet, and I trust him because he shaved his head. So we're close.
You should not trust your barber. I want you to think about why you should not trust your barber. Why does your barber want you to? What is in it for him?
My barber. Well, I'm gonna have to. He knows I'm not gonna shave my own head because I don't trim my own beard. So he's still gonna get paid no matter what.
No, that's not how it works, John.
In fact, he may get paid more because I'm gonna have to go to him like weekly to shave the head.
I cannot. No, John. That's not how any of this works.
What does that mean?
You can still go and get your beard trimmed professionally because that is much more difficult to do. Shaving your head is quite easily the easiest thing to do in the entire world. I've got one, and I have told everybody that is going through this, that is transitioning as you are, from hair to bald. There's just a simple little thing. You do it in your bathroom or out on the back porch. It's so easy. You can do it every day.
But I think we've talked about this before. You know how much I love my barber, how much I love to support him financially. I drive 45 minutes each way to go see him. So I'll probably find a way to keep helping him out if I can.
I mean, there's this thing called friendship, John, where you don't need hair to have.
Yeah, but it's one of those. I don't have a lot of relationships like this. I don't know if you do or not. It's the only one. I don't want to be friends. I like hanging out every other month and like catching up and doing our thing, and that's never more than that. There's no expectations. It's great. We go through the same gamut. How's your family? Good. How are your kids? Good. How's work? Good. And what sport? How are the Lions and the Bears doing? And then what shows are you watching? It's awesome.
John, you just perfectly described your relationship with me.
Is that true?
Yes.
No, we text more than I text my barber.
No, we don't.
For sure.
No, we don't.
That's untrue. I've only ever texted my barber like what time I'll see him.
I think we were friends until you went full-time streaming, and now I'm your barber. Except you don't pay me money; you pay me in your time by giving me an hour to an hour and a half a month. You don't have to drive 45 minutes. We're a little farther away. I think every single word that you said about your barber, you could say about me. And
all right, you're my online barber. I love that.
It's so sad. Yeah, the barber tried to tell you to shave your head because it's so much better.
I'm gonna use this in case you use the video, but I don't think that I'm quite there. This is for anyone on YouTube watching. Like it still looks nice right here from the front. I don't have a huge spot.
John, for the audio listeners, John is proving to everyone that that half of his head has hair on it. The back half.
If there was a spot where none was there, I'd be zoom. Like I'm not hanging on to anything. I don't care about my hair. I wear a hat all the time.
Yeah, me too. Somebody commented on YouTube and they said, stop wearing a hat. We want to see your 5 head. And I said, I don't want you to see my 5 head. That's why I'm wearing a hat.
Yeah, I mean, and listen, hats are a cool thing now. They're cooler than they've ever been.
I don't think I haven't noticed a difference in coolness of hats because I've had one on my head every single day since I was in like 4th grade. So,
Oh, that's amazing. You're an OG.
I am. I really, really am. Okay, so enough about your lack of hair, and I think
Be careful. What happened to Elisha in Scripture when people made fun of him for being bald?
I'm one of them.
77 she bears, bro.
Was it 77?
How many was it?
32.
Was it really?
Yes.
Hold on. Notice how I didn't use my keyboard, so you don't yell at me. How many she bears? Elisha.
It's also Elisha.
Is it Elisha? I thought it was Elijah and Elisha.
That's what people say to make it easier to differentiate between the two of them. But definitely, why would it be that different? Like that'd be like, you being John and Juanes all at the same time.
It was 2. Now, okay, so we're both way off. It was 2 she bears.
No, it was not. Oh,
yeah, 2 she bears and a lot of children. 42 children.
Yeah, see,
42 children.
I thought the children were animals. I was counting them in that.
That's how you know that's an exaggerated Bible story. No shot that 2 bears could kill 44 kids. You could run faster than that. By the time it's eating one, the rest could get away for sure.
Oh, okay. I get what you're saying now. So my biggest issue with that is also, ironically enough, a story with Elijah. Okay, the other one, not Elisha,
Yeah.
Elisha, right? Elisha's a friend of mine who's a lady that's getting married soon, not the biblical character. So Elijah, the famous story of like where he's calling down fire upon the thing to prove that our God is the real God and that their God is fake or whatever. That story used to be like one of my favorite stories for like, because I was like, oh, that's so cool. We're proving that God's real and all this kind of stuff, right? And then I kept reading the story over and over again and kept reading like the next couple of chapters. 2 things about that story. One, that story and how Elijah acts in that story is the reason that God fires him from being his prophet and the reason we get Elisha, right? Like 100%. That story goes into the Elijah's in the mountain. And it's like, God comes by. Did you hear him in the big wind? Did you hear him in this? It's like, no, you heard him in this still small voice. So essentially it's God saying, stop going to battle to prove I'm real. Stop testing me, right? Like I'm in the still small voice. And the in between those 2 stories, it would have been cool, I guess, to call down God's power and change everybody there's mind. It's all these pagan worshipers and stuff. It would have been great if he converted them. But John, do you remember what he did to all of those pagan worshipers after he proved without a shadow of a doubt that his God is real?
Slaughtered them.
He slit every single one of their throats. And here's what's crazy to me. I don't know the exact number, and I'm not going to say anything confidently because I thought I knew the exact number of she-bears, and I was clearly wrong.
More than one, less than a million.
Yeah. But it was like, I think it was in the hundreds of these false prophets that he's slaughtering them. Like, one by one. He didn't come with an army. It specifically says that he's by himself and they have all their people there. So they just concede defeat and line up and they're like, okay, we'll let you slit our throat in the river. Like, that's the story that drives me craziest about why didn't they just run away?
Yeah, just leave.
Right.
Children and false prophesiers.
Yeah. Well, speaking of ridiculous things, you did something incredibly ridiculous last week. Not only are we no longer friends, I'm just your internet barber that gets to talk to you once a month, but you canceled our once a month meeting because you did something insane. Explain this insane thing.
Now, hold on. Let's make sure we're very clear with everyone in the Forte Catholic community. You canceled because you were sick the week before. Mm-mm. I couldn't reschedule until today. I have the text right in front of me.
I know, but
I can't record today.
No, Jonathan,
can you record next week? Sorry, I can't.
Jonathan, we were supposed to record last week. We were scheduled to record the week before because I went out of my way to do 3 recordings in a week because you couldn't be there on the week that you were supposed to. So I went out of my way, and what happened, John? I got sick. I think it's your fault that I got sick.
I rescheduled, and you got sick? I thought you got sick.
No. Incorrect. Anyway, that's not the point. What's the crazy thing you did last week?
We did our first ever subathon, which is when you stay live on Twitch. The more people donate or give bits or subscribe to your Twitch, the longer your countdown timer goes before you can end the stream. Lots of streamers do this and they sleep. They literally will like leave the camera on, they'll sleep on stream. People can donate.
I would have watched that one. I would have watched that one, hands down.
Why?
Like, watching you play Fortnite is incredibly entertaining. Watching you sleep would be the greatest thing I've ever seen on Twitch. No, it would be horrible,
dude, because you would just be waiting for a random fart just so you could clip it and just roast me forever. That's why I wouldn't do it. So I have two business partners, and so we rotated and stuff, and it went well. But we ended up being live for 120 hours, which is we capped it at that, so we made it the whole way. And I streamed like 65% of that, maybe a little more. Maybe right around 65%, which is a long time, way too much time, and including 2 overnights. So 2 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. shifts, which no one should do. No one should do that, especially if you're above the age of 25. You should not stay up past 1 o'clock in the morning ever.
Yeah, you were like you created this business, and then you were like, here's what I'm gonna do as a businessman. I'm gonna treat myself like the overnight crew at the job that's like minimum wage employees, and I'm gonna treat my staff, and by that I mean me, incredibly terribly. I'm gonna make them work terrible hours for only a little bit of extra money. I think what you did is utterly insane.
Yeah, it was dumb, and if we ever do it again, it'll only be because the community wants it, and it'll be a once a year maximum thing. But it was fun. It was cool. The community really came out and supported it and loved it, and that's who we did it for. So we were live for 120 hours.
Here's how much I support you more than I support like your business. Every time I logged on to the subathon, if I saw your face, I'd watch for a little while. If I saw one of the other guys' faces, immediate log off. If John's not there on the Bearded Blevins stream, neither am I.
Didn't you gift 5 subs?
Did I? I think I did.
I think you did. I was like, Taylor, you realize you could just stay subbed, and you literally just gave a half a year of subs on your own, and you did. It was very cool. It was very generous.
Yeah, that's not fun for me. What's fun for me is telling you that I've never subbed to your channel and forcing other viewers to give you money. Like that's
you supported, and you bought like 25 minutes of stream time. So thank you.
You're welcome. So what you're saying is I think this whole thing was stupid, and it was partially my fault. 25 minutes of the 120 hours was my fault.
Yep, that was you. One of the things that happened that I learned, my friend, is that this is something I had no idea was a thing, because I have not stayed up. I honestly maybe have stayed up all night twice in my whole life. I don't know if you've done that, like when you were in high school or college. Like,
oh yeah, I was a good youth minister, so I cared about my kids. We did overnighters a couple times a year.
Oh, we did overnights too. I just had core team, and I would go to bed at like 3 o'clock in the morning, or even if I stayed up till 4. Like I wasn't staying up till 6. I never saw the sun, maybe once or twice in my whole life.
Oh yeah, like every day the first year of COVID, I was going to bed at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's not healthy.
Oh, I'm aware.
So maybe you experienced what I'm about to say. I legitimately started feeling a little drunk, like at 4 o'clock in the morning. I still was slurring my words. Like I think the first night I had 1 or 2 beers total the whole night in 8 hours. So I was the second time I had a couple bourbons, so maybe that had something to do with it. But that first night I had like 1 or 2 beers.
I was feeling a little drunk. I had a lot of alcohol. I don't know if that was
trust me, you and I have had some alcohol together. Like I did not have.
We have, and what I've learned about you is that you're much less of a lightweight than you think you are.
Well, here's the thing. I had 2 bourbons, and they were a little bit full bourbons, but and then 3 hours later, I felt like I was slurring my words, and I don't really remember parts of the morning. Like it was tough for me to stay awake. I started thinking I was playing a ghost game on stream, and it was scaring me a little bit. And I started thinking I was seeing ghosts. Like, it's not smart, bro. I don't think I should stay up past 1 a.m.
Oh yeah, there's so many directions that I want to go. Like my favorite stream that you did is about a month ago, and let's just say you had about 2 bourbons.
Those were full glasses.
Two she bears, 30 she bears, 2 bourbons, 30 bourbons. Who's to
70,
say?
Yeah, 44. Yeah.
Who's among us is to say? That was my favorite stream ever because I remember all of it, and I don't think you do. But there is a correlation. I wonder if I could pull up the thing. There is a correlation to sleep deprivation to like the same equivalent of like blood alcohol content. So like what you're saying totally makes sense. Like if you are sleep deprived by like 4 or 5, 6 hours, it's like you're a little tipsy, and then it goes further. Further. Yeah, 100%.
Interesting.
So yeah, it totally.
Well, I don't
sense.
Like it, so I will not be doing the overnight shift. We'll make the other people do that next time.
Yeah. Treat your other employees like the terrible employees.
Exactly.
So I didn't understand this, right? I didn't understand what it was going into it. I learned pretty quickly, like, oh, this is like, because when I heard subathon, like I was thinking like a jamboree, like a big event, right? Like more like the internet equivalent of like a gala or a celebration or whatever, right? I didn't realize it was like subathon, like marathon, like where you just like keep going and keep going. And so I was real confused whenever, we were trying to originally schedule to record last week. I was like, buddy, like you don't have an hour and a half in your week? Because like your typical week, you have Wednesdays pretty much blocked out, and I can just essentially tell you my Wednesday, and you're like, yeah, like it's been really, really pretty easy to do. And I was like, this is strange. Like you don't have an hour and a half in your week, and you're like, oh, we'll be streaming a lot, and I'll be tired. I'm like, you're always streaming a lot, and you're always tired. But I didn't realize that it was the 120 hours in a row. So it was just this, like, I was so confused by it and a little frustrated. I kind of felt like your internet barber a little bit. But so now that I have a little bit more understanding, I could share that understanding with you.
Yeah. And I had one podcast that I couldn't reschedule that I had to go on, but I couldn't use my stuff. I couldn't use this. So like, I'm sitting here, I used my Mac. I plopped it up on like a Folgers can. I don't even use Folgers coffee. I don't even know where I got this can. And I used my old webcam and I had my AirPods. And I was like, hope this is okay, but my whole setup that I normally use is right here being used. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, and everyone listening that's been listening for a while knows that I would rather have no one than have one of my co-hosts with that setup.
Yeah, I'm excited actually to listen to this podcast and see like what the difference is between when I'm on here or when I'm on there, because it's a whole different system.
Oh well,
what if I sound better on his?
No, you will not. I promise you. One,
you know him. You've been on his podcast before. It was Mike Tenney.
Okay, well, yeah. One, because your setup is way better than just you having a Mac. Like you spent thousands of dollars on that setup. It should sound and look better. Secondly, I love Mike, but no one can touch my editing skills. I can make crappy audio sound good. So the fact that like I can make decent audio sound great, I like no one can touch my skills, Jonathan.
I like your confidence. I think we need more of that.
Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, so the subathon that I was very confused about, but it got me thinking. We've been kind of joking about how you're, I tend to think of you as a pretty decent businessman. You started this business, you've been surviving, like you're not defunct yet, which is incredibly impressive because we all had a running bet that it would be defunct pretty quickly, and here you are. So. Typically, I think you're a good businessman. Last week, I think you screwed everybody. I think it was a terrible managerial decision, mostly because it affected me. But I saw this thing on LinkedIn the other day, the old business platform. You know what LinkedIn is, John?
It's funny you ask. I logged in today because I had a phone call with someone and they added me immediately. And I got an email and I clicked and I had a bunch of unread notifications and like 12 direct messages. It was very interesting.
Oh, yeah. Like on every platform, like Facebook, LinkedIn, you've been working at like a parish for the last 14 years just because you haven't logged in and said that you no longer work at that parish.
Yeah, and now they're all like, that's all video game messages and streaming stuff and the media stuff. And I'm like, what? I didn't realize I should be checking LinkedIn. So it's a thing.
Oh, you shouldn't. It's very stupid. But I check it, every now and then. And I saw this thing, and it said, which of these 4 Ps do you value the most? And this is like, in a business context on. What was that? Did you hear that?
No.
Is there someone in my house? Hello?
Go get him.
Oh. I think it was my Roomba, but if I get murdered, it was good knowing you, buddy.
Dude, this would be a really, really cool movie idea. People recording a podcast, something gets murdered through it, and the entire thing is just me investigating it through the Zoom call.
Yeah, and then you immediately go live and share it with your viewers.
Dude, did you hear? There's a movie out there apparently where a guy live streams himself as an Uber driver and then starts killing people.
I did not see that. No.
It's like the guy from Stranger Things. Anyway, I digress.
Okay, good digression. Okay, which of these 4 Ps do you value the most? Patience?
Prosperity. Oh, sorry. That was my Joel Osteen.
No, please don't throw out random P words. Patience, persistence, practice, and paying attention. It's like focus. Patience, persistence, practice, and paying attention. So if you had to rank those, John, in like you as a businessman, you as a leader, which of those do you value more? Like, not necessarily which one's the ones you think you're best at, but like if you were going to value these things are the things that you value, what would be 1, 2, 3, and 4?
Between patience, persistence, paying attention, and practice?
Yes. Number 1.
Number 1, paying attention.
What was that?
Number 2, what's that?
What?
You want me to say why?
No, what'd you say? Paying
attention, number 1.
Which one is your number 1?
Paying attention. That's not funny. That took me and now I feel like you're making a paying attention joke, and then I wasn't paying attention to your joke because I was like, you don't get what's happening here? So great. That was funny. So paying attention, I'll tell maybe if you want to break it down on why, that's fine in a second. So I'd say paying attention, practice, patience, persistence.
Really? That's fascinating. Okay. So
persistence is annoying. People who are persistent are annoying.
You keep setting yourself up for terrible things today. Like you started by
I'm ready for it.
The whole barber thing and how you 100% to a T described our relationship for the last year. This setup. So persistent people are annoying, huh?
Yeah.
That's my number 1. That is the thing that I care about most. Is like one of the things that I value the most is persistence, and I'm just going to constantly keep working hard and being persistent. That's my number 1 thing.
But that's one way to look at the word persistence, and that's different than when I hear the word persistent, I think of somebody who won't leave me alone.
Me?
Like,
hey, can you schedule this? Can you record this Wednesday? Can you record this
different.
Wednesday?
That's different. We have like an agreement that we do. If I said no to you 5 months in a row, in the 6th month, you're like, bro, will you please join the podcast? Like, how many times do I have to say no? You know, like it's a persistence in that way. Like, it's just annoying. Like, I feel like I very much have lived my, like, I don't bother people, dude. If they don't want to stream, like if I reach out to someone, they say no thanks or whatever, they don't respond, I never message them again to be like, hey, did you see my message? Just following up, just circling back. Like, I'm not ever doing that.
Meanwhile, I've persistently asked to stream with you and you've persistently said no. So I quit asking.
You have not. But yeah, so looking at it differently, being persistent in, like, you know, I'm persistent in that I stream every day and I'm going to, like, that's different, I think, than the way I looked at the way I heard it at first.
What's funny is even your description of persistence goes back to literally how this show started, John. Not this episode, this show, like as in like 6-7 years ago. I went to our local Catholic radio station. So for people that don't know, this podcast started as a simulcast as a Catholic radio show, live radio show every Tuesday night, and that's what the podcast was. You know how I got that radio show, John? Once a month,
asking every month.
Once a month for 12 months, I asked if I could have a show. My entire career is based on what you say you hate.
That's okay. That's okay. It works for some people. It's always you hear about it in evangelization all the time. Invite, and after a year of inviting, someone says yes, it was worth it. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's 4th of my 4.
Jesus, the parable of the persistent widow. You hate that Jesus guy, huh? Don't like what he has to say?
Big fan of Jesus.
Okay. Anyway, that's my number 1. What was your number 1? Yours was paying attention. Okay. So why is paying attention focus the number 1 of your 4?
I feel like paying attention to being aware of what's happening in the world is important for business. We're talking about for business, right? So the church is so bad at paying attention. You know, we're 100 years. Nah, it's probably too much. We're 20 years behind most Protestant churches in the way we're using media, and any kind of, you know, podcasting. Like, we're always, how many Christian podcasts were there before, or how many sermons were posted as a podcast way before homilies? Like how many years? So many. We're not paying attention to trends, right? I was talking about a friend of mine who owns Hot Charlie's. Not sure if you know Charlie or not. You should have him on the show one time. He's great. He was like, we're closer to 2050 than we are 1950. And I was like, I didn't even realize that. That's a great quote.
It's even crazier than that. We're closer to 2050 than we are to when we were born.
Okay, now I feel old. See, you're good at that quick math. But for me, paying attention to, like, what is the trend? Like, if you're in new media and you're not on TikTok, you're not paying attention. If you're not on YouTube Shorts, who just updated the new thing, you're not paying attention. And so
they haven't updated it yet. All they did was tease us. They said they're going to update it sometime in 2023, and I'm incredibly frustrated.
Dude,
do it now.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure at the very least right now that YouTube Shorts count for watch time.
They do not. And they never will. And they never will.
I've gotten 6,000 YouTube subs in the last month, which is something's going on, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And like, but paying attention, like if I wasn't paying attention, I wouldn't be on YouTube Shorts. And so, it goes for so many other businesses. You got to pay attention to the trends, what's happening in the world, and then constantly reevaluate. Am I doing the things that need to be done in order to, stay relevant? I hate using that word. I don't mean the word relevant like as a person. I mean as a business.
What you mean is relevant. That you want to stay relevant like a youth minister who doesn't have any hair anymore, so you just wear a full
like
hat.
That.
That's the kind of relevant you're saying. Okay,
opposite of that.
I want to wrap us up here. So my four is persistence, practice, because like that's how like practice is really important to me. It's like the whole 10,000 hours Malcolm Gladwell thing. Like we talked earlier, like the reason I'm good at audio editing is because I have spent like the whole 10,000 hour things. I edit for about 10,000 hours. I did the math recently. I've done 10,000 hours every year, a couple of years so let's do some quick math. 52 times 40, every 5 years. And I've been editing for 15. I've done my 10,000 hours about 3 times. Right. So, practice. That's the reason I'm good. I wasn't good when I started with anything, with speaking, with, video games, with sports, with whatever. Like we get better from practice. So for me, it's persistence, practice, then paying attention, and then patience. Which like patience just isn't something that I value, right? So give me your 4 again.
Let me see. I hope I get it in the same order. Paying attention. I think I said paying attention.
Yep.
I think I said practice, patience, and persistence.
Yeah, because you definitely had persistence at last. So here's what was interesting. This was a poll of everybody on LinkedIn, and there were a few hundred votes. Okay, whenever I saw this, number 1 with 38% of the answers was persistence. I was like, okay, cool. Number 2, so like that one didn't surprise me because it was high up for me, right?
Yep.
Number 2 was patience, which is my number 4. That had 36% of the vote. So 38% versus 36, which I thought was fascinating because I just don't value patience at all. And it's the second it was like 1B to the 1A answer, right?
Yep.
Third place with 20% was paying attention, focus, and then practice. No one cares. 6%.
Wow.
I just thought it was kind of fascinating. So neither of ours matched the list on LinkedIn. So like one, I think it's just I'm gonna keep my P's going. Just kind of picking where we place our value. I was trying to think of a P word for value and I couldn't do it. But like, I'm doing relatively okay. You're doing relatively okay. And we value these things differently and we value them different than the community. I just thought it was kind of a fascinating exercise.
It is. I wonder how much of it matters. Like you might hate patience or feel like you're not a patient person, but you wouldn't be where you are. You wouldn't be able to do what you're doing right now 10 years ago. So you maybe were impatient for those 10 years, but you are where you are today because of all the work you put in over the last 10 years, which is some sort of patience. You know what I mean? I feel like
I think where I think I lack the patience. I talked about this on the show a couple of weeks ago. To kind of call back to that is that like it is so hard for me to be thankful for like looking back 10 years ago from where I was to then to where I am today, because I think I should be 30% further, 40% further, 50% further. So for me, it's like, it's the persistence thing. It's like, that's an interesting connection that I didn't even think about, that like the patience isn't important to me because I value the persistence so much more, probably to an unhealthy level where I'm just like, let's go get the next thing. Let's go get to the next goal. Let's go get the next goal, instead of like looking back at the 10 years and being like, oh, I had 0 subscribers 10 years ago,
Yeah, that's why that's an interesting thing, is just how we look at it. Cause I feel like I'm always just like, God is in control. My business is going to succeed because he's in control of it. And so at some point it's going to be successful. And so I'm not going to worry about it if it doesn't seem like it's where I want it to be yet, because eventually it will be.
For sure. Okay. Well, we have talked for quite some time. We're going to take a break.
Good.
We'll come back and do a pretty quick segment, but I think you'll enjoy it. Don't go anywhere. We're going to Rome, and we want you to come with us. It would be great. We're going to Rome next summer, June 19th through 29th. That's 11 days. Myself, Father Anthony, Liv Harrison, and you. We are putting together this group. We just started talking about it a few weeks ago. We're going to Rome, the Vatican, Tuscany, Assisi, Florence. It's going to be a great mix of like the sightseeing stuff at the Vatican. We're going to see the Pope. And then in the second half, it's going to be a little bit slowing down, enjoying the beauty of Italia and having a retreat there with all of our pilgrims together. We hope that you will join us. You can find out more at fortecatholic.com/travel. That's fortecatholic.com/travel to check out more info about the trip. To sign up, do it now. fortecatholic.com/travel. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Stroll, and that is Jonathan Bearded Lene Blevins, and I'm his hairdresser. So I had a thought the other day. Kind of connected to last week's show. We talked last week with Father Joseph Anthony Crest just about people kind of doing a little too much. Just being a little extra, just kind of stay in your lane, keep it simple. Try to expand your boundaries when you're like by yourself, when you're practicing, going back to the last segment. But like when it's time to perform, when the lights come on, just kind of stick to your game, right? Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question about someone and it's something that we have held up in Catholicism for many, many years. The person I believe should be held up. They're one of my favorite saints, St. Francis of Assisi. I love St. Francis of Assisi.
Yeah.
But the story that I think I've never really questioned or thought about.
Be careful, Taylor. It's my patron. I'm listening.
I don't care. That's not going to stop me. This could be about your son, and I wouldn't stop. This is bothering me enough that I have to get it off my chest.
Yep.
So, Saint Francis of Assisi, famously great saint, reformer of the church, just an awesome guy. My question is, one of the most famous stories about Saint Francis is that he was he came from a lot of money, and his dad wanted him to kind of be the next man of the house and kind of take over the family and the family finances and all that kind of stuff. And Francis so did not want to be a part of that. He wanted to go live a life for God and get rid of the connection to the earthly things. Cool. How he decided to prove that was he threw all of his clothes out of a window and then proceeded to go out into the town naked and proclaim getting rid of, you didn't want to be part of his father's house and he's going to leave. So I think he's doing a little bit too much. Why couldn't he have simply just told his dad, no, thank you, and left without qualm? Why do you have to get naked in front of all of the entire town? Jonathan?
Well, I don't know which direction we're taking this, my friend, but it could be a roller coaster. So I'll start by saying this. I think one of the coolest things about Jesus and the way conversions happen is that people usually go from one extreme to another extreme, at least when we're talking about saints, especially from a long time ago. Maybe not now. We're not like, even now, you and I think I heard a segment that you did recently about Shia LaBeouf, and you had said something like, look at it, how he had this great conversion, but like he seems to have gone almost like a complete 180 where, hardcore rad traddy from like not being Catholic at all. But that used to be a thing that like just seemed to happen back in the day, right? It's happened to St. Paul, who was, breathing murderous threats, and all of a sudden,
sure.
Like,
murdering Christians, you should stop doing that.
No, for sure. But then he went from that. He went from that to like the greatest evangelist ever. I mean, it's right. That's a massive. That's like a complete 180. And Francis, like, I feel like people sometimes underestimate how rich I almost said Pope Francis, how rich St. Francis of Assisi was. Like, dude was wealthy. And his way of saying, like, I don't care about this anymore was to give away even the crazy amount of rich clothes that he had, and then ran around naked. Now, I mean, it's not that different than an alcoholic, publicly pouring their alcohol down the drain on TikTok and saying, I'm done with this life, as like a way of saying. It is different
because they're clothed, because that wouldn't be allowed on TikTok.
What if I told you, Taylor, that the only reason you care about that is because it's 2022 and nakedness is a lot different now than it was in the 1100s?
I still think that there was sexual morality and that he shouldn't have been walking around flaunting his stuff. St. Francis.
I don't disagree with you, but I feel like I don't know. I'm not a historian by any means, but I feel like, I think of my kids. My 7-year-old, Caleb, my oldest, he has never seen anyone naked except for, his family. Like, that's it. Like, his immediate family. But I feel like most 7-year-olds in the 1100s couldn't say that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel, what I mean? I feel like seeing someone naked down the street probably wasn't that weird like in the 1100s.
Here's my issue, John. St. Francis wasn't 7 when he left. This would be the difference at your house. If I come to your house again for a March Madness party or whatever, if your 7-year-old starts running around naked in the backyard, we'd all just kind of laugh, right? Okay, whatever. If you started running around naked, it'd be a whole different story.
But hear me out. I agree with you 100%, but I wasn't saying St. Francis being 7. I was saying the people who would have been seeing him, who would have been traumatized, I feel like we're used to seeing that back then. Right? Weren't clothes not covering as much back then?
No, that's not how that works. Like,
I'm pretty sure when people bent over to grab a vegetable that people saw a butt.
No.
I don't know. I'm not a historian.
I'm not a historian.
But we look at ancient art, they're all naked, and now we call it porn.
That doesn't mean everyone was walking around naked all the time. Here, just imagine, John. Imagine. You're out in the courtyard. You're just some random fellow, doing whatever the equivalent of video game streaming was back then. What do you think the 11th century version of that was?
St. Francis. Just walking around naked talking to people.
Not at all. Not at all. I was thinking clown or something. You're the village jester. You and I, we're village jesters together, right? Can you imagine this? Can you picture this? We're the village jesters.
I'm trying to. I'm not a historian.
We're fully clothed. Okay, so we're just sitting out there, and all of a sudden, this rich guy who we know of is just running around town naked in broad daylight, right? And then, picture a year later, this young man comes back. He's wearing a frock. He's a brother of the Lord, and he starts preaching. And then I just look at you and be like, remember a year ago when he was naked? Right there. It's so awkward. Keep your clothes on. Do your grand gesture, man. Leave the inheritance. That's the big deal. And okay, you don't want to bring your fancy clothes. You don't have some simple whitey tidies that you could have worn outside that weren't $1,000. Chill out, man.
Couldn't put the potato sack on.
Right, for real. Modesty. You're giving up wealth and lacking modesty. It's an overcorrection, St. Francis. That's your patron. How do you feel that that's your patron? Just an immodest saint.
So I don't want to get Catholic canceled. I don't care. I don't believe 70% of the stories about most of the saints.
It's probably good.
You know what I mean?
You know who else could have said, "I'm not a historian"? Catholic historians.
Yeah. I mean, I'm serious. When you look up the story of St. Francis running naked, so you can look up him preaching to animals, right? And you'll see a couple of accounts that are it's claimed that he preached to some animals, right? It was just did he? And then there's other accounts but it's even crazier with the naked thing. It's there are stories where he ran through the town naked. Did he? I don't know. Maybe they thought he was naked because he used to wear so many awesome rich clothes, and then he just had a potato sack on.
I would just like to say here that if you're going to have a conversion of heart, big one, little one, just please keep your clothes on. That's all I'm asking. We are supposed to be like Christ, and the saints are some of the best people who were like Christ. But it doesn't mean that what they did and everything that they did were perfect. Christ kept his clothes on. You should too. End of conversation.
What about the cross?
Well, he was forced to. That's a different thing.
Okay, too soon?
Yeah. No further comments. Okay. You want to try to get canceled again? I have another cancelable thing.
Oh gosh, sure.
Okay. There was a change in the Mass. So there was the big change in the Mass about 10 years ago, where the verbiage changed. We're trying to go back to some of the older verbiage and kind of some better Latin, better English translations from Latin, because they were done so quickly after Vatican II, right? Okay.
Yeah.
That was the last big change in the Novus Ordo Mass in the last 10 years. There was another minor change in the last, I would maybe 3 to 5. Again, I'm not a historian, but Do you remember what this minor change was, John? Oh, no, it was a little bit more than that because I was a music director, so maybe it was like 7 years ago. There's a certain word that we used to say at Mass that we can no longer say. Do you know what it is?
That we can no longer say.
Yes. Choose
Yahweh.
There you go. I was about to say, choose carefully. Don't just throw out.
Do you know what? It's funny.
I
thought you were going down the whole and with your spirit thing.
Nope. Y con tu espiritus. So, Yahweh, right? So we used to be able to say Yahweh in the liturgy, and then essentially, our Jewish predecessors, our Jewish brothers and sisters, believed all of our heroes from the Old Testament believed that that name was so holy that it could not be said. So actually, like Yahweh was actually 4 consonants. So like we are saying it by inserting some vowels into the thing. So if you've seen there was a popular video when we were in college, essentially Yahweh was just 4 letters. Yod, He, Va, He. So it's 4 letters, but it's consonants. It would be like me trying to ask you to like pronounce K, F, G, H. It's like you can't. Like you could try, like give your best attempt by putting some vowel sounds in there, but you can't. Like that's just you can't hit 4 consonants in a row. So, out of respect to our Jewish brothers and sisters, the church decided we are no longer going to say the word Yahweh, and it would be in prayers and stuff. It's one of those things like how like during Lent we can't say Alleluia in Mass, right? But then people will try to yell at you in Kroger because you said Alleluia. They have yogurt, and they're like, you can't say that. I'm like, I can say whatever I want. It's a liturgy rule. It's not like I'm not in Mass, right? But so same kind of thing. We can say Yahweh, good. But we can't say it in Mass. So like the old song that a lot of people probably grew up listening, Yahweh, I know you are near. What are the next words?
I don't know.
Standing always at my side.
Oh, what do they replace it with?
Oh Lord, I know.
Sure, okay. Yeah,
so it's this song probably written in the 60s, 70s, 80s, something like that, and they had to change it. Not a huge deal, but that was like the most emblematic thing because it was a popular song in the parishes where I grew up. But we can no longer say that word. Okay. Any thoughts thus far?
Nope. My only thought is that I have only ever said Yahweh while typing out my academic papers in grad school.
Yeah, not a very popular word, but there is a very popular word that we say every single Mass. We can't say Yahweh, but we can say Alleluia. And since you have your grad school fancy Catholic degree, what does Alleluia mean, Jonathan?
I only know the basic definition, which is praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord, right? Allelu is praise.
Yep.
And then Yah is the first half of what word, Jonathan?
Yahweh, my friend.
Yahweh. So we say Alleluia, we are saying praise Yahweh. So essentially, we're like, okay, our Jewish brothers and sisters, we won't say your very fancy word. We'll just shorten it and kind of trick you and pretend that we're not saying it, but actually, we all know we're actually saying it. I just thought it was such a silly, change. It's like, okay, change it. Like, if you want to be kind, but that would be like, it would be like something else that I don't really want to mention. But it's all about a word that you can't say, and especially if you pronunciate it a certain way. It's just like, if we're going to be culturally sensitive or even respectful to a group of people that the church holds in high esteem, our Jewish brothers and sisters, because that's where we came from, right? It just seems very weird that we're just like, ooh, Catholic magic. We're not saying Yahweh anymore. We're just saying half of it.
It's funny to me that we say what does everyone replace it with in Lent? We're not that close to Lent right now. We're the farthest away from it.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Praise to you, Lord, is Alleluia.
Yeah, so it feels very similar, right? You can't say that, but you say praise to Lord Jesus Christ, King of endless glory. It's like, come on, guys.
It's so silly.
Doing? I feel like JD Flynn though would be a much more entertaining person to have this conversation with because he probably has some super nerdy explanation for why it all is the way it is.
No one can explain this to me. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And don't worry, John, I'm entertaining enough for the both of us. So.
Oh, I'm not talking about entertainment. I'm talking about smart. I have no idea why the rules are the way they are in liturgy. I just want the priest to follow them.
Our friend Tea with Tolkien, Caitlin Fachista, she tweeted last night a very funny tweet that said, I'm the smartest co-host on my podcast. She has a podcast. She's the only host. So it's kind of a joke, right? I responded, me too. And I think I'm proving that right now.
I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I'm tweeting this segment to our friends.
Oh, good. Yeah, for sure. Okay. So final thoughts. Oh, just a final example. You and I have both talked before about our health and our, being a little bit larger and trying to be less large, right? So I think saying Alleluia would be like if every time that I talk to you, I would call you chubby. And that would not be a kind thing to say, right? So then I'm like, oh, John, out of respect for our friendship, I'm no longer going to call you chubby. I'm just going to call you chub from now on. Because that's half of the word chubby.
Can't say that word. Can't say that word.
I told you we're going to get canceled.
Canceled.
But that's essentially what we're doing at church. We can't say Yahweh, but we can say Yah, exactly knowing what we mean by it. And I just think the church goes like patting themselves on the back, like, look at this kind gesture that we did. And it's almost worse than just leaving it alone.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I don't remember ever hearing the word Yahweh growing up at all.
Well, that's because you didn't pay attention /focus enough in mass. Call back to our
back
last
to the
segment. All right, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back for our final segment of the day. We talked last week with Father Joseph Anthony Kress about bad church music and people trying to do a little too much. Well, if the music at your church isn't that great, we have something for you, especially if you're one of the people that have some say in the parish, whether you're the pastor, whether you're the musician, whether you're the pastoral associate, whether you're the janitor, whoever has say in your liturgy music, we've got some way to help you. Liturgy.com makes it easy to plan music and prepare the liturgy for your parish. You can prepare for Mass more easily than ever before with features that you'll love, like the ability to share, save, and print your outlines, audio and sheet music previews, expert song suggestions. I remember when I was the music director at a parish, there's just hundreds and hundreds of songs to pick from. So song suggestions from people who have thought about this for a while is always helpful. And now it's even more affordable than ever with 3 new subscription options, Premium, Plus, and a free basic option. Join today by visiting liturgy.com just in time to prepare for the Advent and Christmas seasons. Check it out. Link in the description below. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll, and that is Jonathan Bearded Blevins. So, John, people who have been listening to the show for a while know that I went through quite a journey at our parish here. It went from like, okay, decent parish to no one wants to be here. It's kind of hell for about 2.5 to now in the last year and a half. It's been incredible. Like the change in direction, the change in like just how it feels to go to Mass, the community building, like everybody's just kind of into it now. And it's great, right? Very, very exciting. But I had a moment a couple of weeks ago where there's now a new person, a couple of new people moving to town to now work at this parish because the parish is growing and thriving and doing well. Financially, things are going well. Like ministerially, we need more help because there's more people.
Nice.
So we're hiring literally new positions. New positions are being created for new people coming in from out of town. Like people like yourself, like people who would have been in ministry for a long time and like kind of like, big names, very respected in ministry, are moving to town. And similar to a conversation we had last week, 2 weeks ago, I should be thrilled about this, right? I should be thrilled. It's just like kind of the next step of like, this is great. I'm happy to be here. I'm a part of it. I'm playing my role. The pastor's playing his role. The congregation's playing their role. Like everybody's playing their role and things are going very well. But I was having a conversation with this guy who is just moved to town and is starting to work at the parish. And he just continued to gush about how wonderful it is here. He's been here about a month. How wonderful it is. How wonderful the pastor is. How wonderful the community is. And I am happy for him. But a part of me is like, you don't understand the struggle. Like, you got to come in after everything is great. You got to come in after all the hard work. You got to come in when things were grand. And you just have no idea the hurt and the turmoil that we and our parish community went through. And I was slightly frustrated.
When you say slightly, what do you mean? You were really frustrated.
It's one of those, those moments where you have to like focus on your facial expressions.
Yeah.
Because like just in my mind, this is probably a 5-minute conversation. And in my mind, as he's sharing how excited he is to be here and this thing's great, and the pastor's great, and this person's great, and this ministry's great, I'm like, everything he says, I'm like, smile, smile, smile. But like, I have to tell my face to keep smiling, right? And it's just kind of this mixed emotions of like, it was a big moment for me of realizing again just kind of how far we've come and how good it is to be here, because this person's just gushing about how good it is, and they're right. But the other part of me is just like, yeah, but you didn't have to have the persistence that we talked about earlier. You just came in, everything was fine. It was frustrating. So maybe a little bit more than slightly.
So this is where you and I are so funny, because I'm with you. Like my last parish was what I worked there for 3 years. It was
no, on LinkedIn you still work there.
What's that?
On LinkedIn you still work there.
Yeah. Did I not update it? I think I did.
I don't know. I looked like 2 weeks ago.
Okay, gosh, I hope I updated it on time. So I the pastor at the time, I'm good friends with them. I love him to death, but like leadership just not his strength. And like some of the parishioners, none of the main ones. The main parishioners are amazing, but like you've got those couple who just kind of made life a living hell. And then all of a sudden, like I endured, and a couple of my staff members endured the whole thing. And then we get a new pastor in, and then he just kind of has a no BS approach to all these haters, and now they're all gone. And I'm with you. I'm like, dude, like all these new people here are just like, this place is heaven. And I'm like, well, yeah, you're welcome for all the horribleness we had to deal with. But then what got me over it was I just had a conversation with someone, and they were just like, yeah, how's it to go to mass without fearing death? And I was like, okay, good point. He's like, people had to go through that so you could go to mass on Sunday. And I was like, okay, fine. But I hear you, bro. That's pretty wild.
I found it, John, and I was paying attention to you. I'll respond to that in a moment. It wasn't LinkedIn. It's your Facebook. On Facebook, St. Paul the Apostle Church in Gurnee, Illinois. You've been working there since June 1st, 2015, and you presently work there.
No way.
Yeah, 100%.
Dude, I haven't worked there in 5 years.
No, John.
4.
No, John.
Facebook rules.
Simple math, John.
Okay, I'll be updating that immediately after the show.
Good. Whenever you log on to your Facebook for the first time in 8 years, you'll see that I've posted you in something once a month for the last 8. Maybe you can share one of them. Update where you work and share our first episode together from around the same time you left that parish.
I will do it. I think it's fair, though, for you to hold the new employees to a ridiculously high standard.
What do you mean?
You know what I mean?
No, I don't.
Like, so people toiled, whoever stuck around, and maybe no one stuck around, and that's fine too. You know, if the new pastor came in and he just kind of reset, that's fine too. But like, people had to, there's fertile ground there now, right? You go through something horrible. That means if there's fertile ground there, there's ministry to be done. And if you're going to bring in someone and there's not a lot of suffering happening, then there's a lot of fruit that can happen. And so you should hold them to a high, no, of course, God does all the work, but just hold them to a high standard of like, all right, well then don't mess up, make sure you're providing great faith encounters for families and new people, and that we're not, letting people fall through the cracks.
So that part of it, I think I can do pretty easily. I think I don't struggle with that part of it. I think ultimately the part that I struggle with, just personally, just me as an individual, it's the balance between gossip and sharing relevant truth, right?
Ooh.
So like, I don't know what I should say to people. Like, I had a similar conversation with my pastor when he got here. Just like, as a representative of the community, I needed him to know how hurt this parish was, because he didn't know.
Yeah.
And he had said some things kind of saying that he didn't. And a couple of times as I spoke, he would stop me and say, okay, let's kind of pull back a little bit there, right? Similar thing when our associate pastors came in. Similar thing with these new people coming in. It's like, I'm not perfect. I've probably overshared at times with, it's probably turned into gossip, right? But at the same time, people doing ministry should know the context in which they're doing ministry, right? The entire parish struggled and suffered for years. And that's still a huge part of our parish. We are not a healthy parish. We are still recovering, right? So like, it's one of those things. Like, so how would you balance that between like, they need to know that bad things happened, but maybe I shouldn't be sharing all of the things that happened.
I feel like it's a great question. I feel like someone like you who has been, Catholic for a long time and working in the church in a long time, you should know the difference between sharing what happened because you need to and gossip. And it sounds like you do. And then and that should be shared. The history has to be shared with some people, maybe certainly the pastor and some new employees. And then it's up to the pastor and associate pastor and some of the employees to know who they can trust and who they can't, because every parish, no matter how healthy they are or unhealthy they are, has people going to the new people saying, here's what you need to know. And some of it's BS and just full self-serving and like their version. And some of it's absolute truth that they need to know so that they know not to make the same mistakes, so that they know, who and who cannot be trusted. So I feel like there's definitely room to share, and then the line of gossip or not. But then I think there's a huge onus on the parish, the staff, and the pastor to be like, okay, I can trust this person. Like for me, bro, when I worked in the church and someone came to me and they just whined the entire time, like I wasn't going to trust that. I'd meet with them again because you want to love people and be pastoral. But I would be like, okay, well, that's little Susie, and Susie's going to come in here and say Father was a minute late to mass every week. But
ma'am, mass didn't start till he started. So
yeah. And by the way, little Bobby, sometimes you've got little Bobbies and little Susies, all over the place. But then there's people for sure that you can try. You just know, oh man, this person, like they're trying. They're not perfect. They're not gossipy about this, but they're worried and they care about the parish. You can tell.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't have that skill though, and then that's how unhealthy people get control of parishes.
You are giving me more things. Like you're bringing up more things that I wrestle with than I even planned first to talk about, which is good. Because one of the things that I wrestle with is like, I know that is the perception, right? The perception of like people wanting power and to get the ear of the pastor or whatever, that I think I often don't go to them enough because I don't want to be that annoying person that's just trying to get their ear, right? So essentially what I've done is I'll reach out to them every few months, be like, hey, you want to grab lunch or coffee or whatever, right? I'll go hang out with them at the football game. So it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, I like them and I want to be their friends, but I don't want to be seen by them or by anybody else. It's like the person chasing clout or whatever. So essentially, like what I've done is like, yeah, I'm on the pastoral council. Like that's a pretty cool thing. But even on pastoral council, I've just kind of carved out my little niche of like, I'm the foundations guy. I'm going to do this thing. And like, we don't even meet at the church. We meet at somebody else's house. I'm just kind of like, essentially how I've approached it with the priest is just like, what do you need me to do? I found out what they needed, where the hole was. I am filling that hole of foundations, of teaching the faith, this 10-week course that we're just going to keep doing over and over and over again. And I'm just like, look, I know y'all are busy. My gift to you is that you will not be bothered by me. But then I feel kind of sad because I feel like I'm not building a relationship with them because I don't want to overbuild a relationship and seem like I'm trying to gain clout. I'm trying to find the balance, John. I can't do it in any of these scenarios.
I think you're not giving yourself enough credit. I think you have a good read of people. And so like, whether or not he thinks you're that person. I would have a similar fear if I didn't know that my pastor at this parish loves me. Now that's a little different because I worked with him for 3 months. And so we've had hours long conversation multiple times. But you know what I mean? Like you can tell when someone thinks you're weird.
I think so. I think I can.
I think you can too. If he doesn't, and you don't get that vibe, then he probably trusts you, and you're good to go.
Okay. You make me feel better about my decisions, Jonathan.
You should. It sounds like you're doing good stuff, bro. Like you're a little more involved. Like I'm in the Men of St. James right now. I'm trying to help them out as much as I can, but I'm really just trying to focus on my wife and kids and like as our domestic church. I just want to go to mass as often as I can, certainly on Sunday, of course, but then as often as I can throughout the week, pray with my kids and like, you know what I mean? Like I'm not ready yet to do the foundations course. I know that I probably should soon, but I ain't there yet.
What a backhanded compliment. You're like, you're serving your parish, but I love my wife and kids. So.
No, I'm saying you're at a healthier, it sounds like you're at a healthier point at your parish. You're able to do that. And I'm just like, I'm on the men's committee. I'll run a social event every quarter.
Yeah, but it took me a while though. I think we're on similar because we had dealt with some similar things, just on different timelines, right? Like yes, I am in a good place now, but I completely left my parish for 2.5 years, and you never did that. So, we both have our positive qualities and our drawbacks. So, anyway, anybody that has been listening and watching this long knows that we both have our positive qualities and our drawbacks. Jon is going to continue streaming on twitch.tv/beardedblevins, just not 120 hours in a row because someone in his life finally got his ear and showed him the truth and didn't gossip, but was able to guide him to realize that was a stupid decision. I don't know who that person was, but
her name is Jody Blevins.
Hey, me and Jody agreeing on something. You should tell her that because I don't think she likes me. We agree on this for sure. We can become best friends over this moment right now. But check out the stream. Check out his Facebook where he still works in a parish from 3 jobs ago.
ASAP.
And hang out with us on our YouTube channel. We just started a whole bunch of new series. The foundation course is on there. We've got a whole bunch of stuff going on, so check it out. I am Taylor Stroll. That is Jonathan Lene Bearded Blevins. I'll be back next week. He'll be back next month unless he cancels on me because he wants to stream for 120 hours in a row again. Bye. See ya.
See ya.
Thank you guys for watching and listening today. We hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe wherever you are watching or listening. One of our other things that we are doing every single week on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Forte Catholic, is our foundation series. This is our 10-week teaching series on the 10 basic topics within Catholicism that every Catholic needs to know. Myself, one of my friends who has a master's degree in theology, and a couple of other guests are sharing with a group at our parish about the liturgy, the Eucharist, the sacraments, salvation history, the moral life, all of these types of topics we are covering every single week, and that is exclusively on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Forte Catholic. You can find the Foundations playlist there. Check it out. We will see you guys very, very soon. Love you.